in today's video, I thought it would be fun to talk about 10 unimportant differences between New York City and LA that nobody ever talks about. So if that interests you, stay tuned. Number 1, what do you call this brand of mayonnaise? It's got the little yellow and blue design. So if you thought it was Hellmann's, you definitely live on the East Coast. And if you think of it as best foods, you definitely live west of the Mississippi. So when I first moved out to Los Angeles, I remember going to the supermarket and picking up a bottle of mayonnaise. And I reached for this thinking it was Hellmann's mayonnaise because that was the mayonnaise I grew up with and I was used to. And when I saw that it was called Best, I was like, what's with this off-brand of mayonnaise? Where's the Hellmann's? And I went looking and I realized that there was no Hellmann's, that there was only this brand that looked like Hellmann's. So I went home and did a little internet research, and sure enough, up until like 1927, the most popular brand of mayonnaise on the East Coast was Hellmann's, and the most popular brand on the West Coast was Best. And then they were bought by the same company. And you'll even notice that the slogan, bring out the Hellmann's and bring out the best, right? Not a coincidence that that has both names in it. But apparently because each brand was so popular, they decided to keep those names, even though it was now essentially the same mayonnaise. Now, some claim that the Best Foods brand of mayo is tangier because it has more lemon juice in it. So I don't know if that's true or not, but let me know in the comments if you even noticed, if you're on the West Coast, if you've ever had Hellmann's, if you're on the East Coast, if you've ever had Best. All right, number 2, what do you call the tube pasta covered in ooey gooey cheese and lots of sauce that is baked in the oven? So if you call it baked ziti, you're probably from New York or New Jersey. If you call it mostaccioli, you're probably from the West Coast, or I believe they even call it this in Chicago. Now, my sister claims that it is different, that mostaccioli is a different kind of pasta than ziti, but it seems to be the same thing when you look it up. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that mostaccioli is different than baked ziti. Number 3, how do you pronounce the word? Okay, so growing up in New Jersey, I always pronounced it groceries with an S sound, groceries. But I came out here to Los Angeles and I remember hearing these radio commercials where the voiceover pronounced it groceries. And especially because it was a voiceover and I do voiceover, I was really paying attention to it, and it sounded so weird to me. But then I started realizing that most people out here in Los Angeles pronounce this word groceries with the kind of sh sound on it. So let me know how you pronounce this word and what part of the country you are from. Number 4, no worries versus no problem, or as I like to say, no problem. That feels even more East Coast. So once I moved out here, I noticed instead of saying no problem, I started picking up no worries, because most people seem to say that out here in an email with different people. They might say no worries, so I kind of picked it up. But before that, when I was living on the East Coast, I don't think I ever heard anybody say no worries. It was always no problem or no prob. So let me know what you're more comfortable with. The freeway. In New Jersey, we have a parkway, we have a turnpike. In Brooklyn, we have the expressway, and then in Manhattan, I believe there's the FDR Drive, but I can't think of any freeways. So I think freeways are a West Coast thing. I'm not really sure where that changes, where it becomes a freeway. I don't know if it's, you know, do you call them freeways in Texas or in the Midwest? I would love to know that. But I know that in Los Angeles, they all seem to be freeways. I don't know why that is. I guess because you don't pay a toll, maybe? I don't know, but I'm really curious if anybody has the answer to that. Number 6. Now, everybody likes to shit on LA pizza, and I gotta say, I am fine with LA pizza. Whenever I have a pizza craving, I feel like that craving is able to be satisfied. However, something nobody ever talks about is that you cannot find a New York style Chinese egg roll in Los Angeles. And now before you stop me and comment below with, oh, there's this place that has a New York style egg roll, this place, there are 2 restaurants in a 5-mile radius of me that have New York style egg rolls on the menu, and I've tried them both and they're still different. For some reason, they're not as crunchy and they're not as firm. They tend to fall apart. They feel almost more like a burrito. And so I have not been able to find what I consider a traditional New York style egg roll anywhere in Los Angeles. If you happen to know of a place, please let me know, because I would be very, very curious. Number 7, this one is really kind of funny. So it was this year, 2020, that I realized that not everybody refers to ground beef equally as chop meat. Not chopped meat, but chop meat. So I learned this is a very specific to New York, Long Island, New Jersey kind of thing. And it's so common to call it chop meat that certain supermarkets actually have a little price card that says chop meat. I didn't realize it until I had texted my friend or something this year who's from Chicago, and I mentioned chop meat and she said, what's chop meat? And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I have a feeling this is one of those New Jersey, New York things that just slipped by that I never noticed. But don't take my word for it. Let's go to the source, shall we?
Hello?
Hey, I got a question for you.
Oh, okay.
What? I have to make hamburgers, so what kind of meat should I get?
Well, you want a good meat because you...
No, but I mean, like,
I don't know.
should I get...
Let me ask you. Chop meat.
You can get regular chop meat. That's good.
Number 8. So when you see the word duplex, what do you think of? In New York, I always thought of a duplex as being a 2-floored building. But out here in Los Angeles, it can be a building with 2 apartments side by side. Is that true where you're from? Number 9. One of the things that surprised me when I moved out here from New York City is that not all apartments have a refrigerator. So in most apartments, in my experience, that you move into in Los Angeles, you have to bring your own fridge, which is funny because I've lived in some crazy ass apartments in New York City that were really, really old, but it was always a given that they came with a refrigerator. That refrigerator might look like it was from 1968 and be covered in mold and falling apart, but you got a refrigerator. But out here, it's totally common that when you move in, you don't necessarily get a fridge. Let me know what's common where you live. Number 10, do you go on a hike or do you go on a walk? I had a New York friend move out here a few years ago and she was complaining that everybody was asking her to go on hikes. And she was like, how are hikes different from walks? I think they're the same thing. And I was like, good point. I noticed people definitely use the term hike out here more versus go for a walk in New York. But I will argue that that's because we have mountains out here. And so anytime you are gaining an elevation or I think your feet are on dirt, I do think it's more of a hike. So that is my 2 cents. But if you like this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and please let me know below what are some differences you have noticed between New York and LA, and have you ever noticed the differences that I mentioned here? But thank you for watching. Bye.